Hey everyone, 'tis I, your old pal King Chuck. I hope you're having a wonderful week. As I'm talking to you right now, get this, February 19, 2026. We should have several feet of snow on the ground. It's 62 and sunny. Oh my God. I love a good sunny day, but it's also proof that global warming is still a thing, folks, and we need to really worry about it. And of course, with our horrible president, and we keep hearing about this, that, and everything else. And I was listening to Midas Touch today, and they were talking about the fact that he might have had a medical issue many years ago, 2019, and then they talked about the fact that this guy from New Mexico purchased this ranch that was once that was actually owned by Epstein, and the rumor is that Epstein personally buried some of his sex workers in there. And unfortunately, it's like, some of these people are missing, and unfortunately, this guy is going to turn it into like a Christian camp. God damn these people. They'll never stop at nothing. They never will. Another big news story I want to share with you. Of course, on Sunday we did Hero of the Day on the Chalfonte Foundation up in Elk Rapids, my hometown. They now own the Elk Rapids Cinema, and they just launched a new radio station several months ago called 99.7 Village Radio, and it's a diversified community-based format, and God bless them. One of the things I said was that if I was still living up there, I would volunteer. My God, this town is just loaded with bad drivers today. So anyway, let's, I almost hit a guy who was, I was turning left onto Eastern earlier today here in Grand Rapids, and some asshole was using the crosswalk to cross the street on a red do not walk. It's like, why do people do this shit? It's like, have you ever watched Sesame Street in your fucking life? They teach you this when you're a kid. You do not cross the street when there is a red hand that says stop. There is a reason why they do that. They have crosswalks, folks. It's to tell you, do not cross. Period. End of story. They are supposed to help save the lives of you and other people. Oh my God. Anyway, back to the discussion about the cinema. So sadly, as I was recording Sunday's special podcast, the Elk Rapids Cinema unfortunately had a really bad situation happen to them. So the cinema, the HVAC system, the heating cooling unit, it broke. And, it's a really old unit. I guess it might be as old as the theater itself, as far as I know. It broke, and they said, the whole thing has to be replaced. $25,000 to replace the whole fucking thing. And they had to get out an emergency loan, and they anticipate being closed until at least March, which is too bad, because they were actually showing a brand new movie this week, Wuthering Heights, which was the #1 film at the box office. And so anyway, they have canceled all their movies, and they were going to show some classic films as well. Same thing happened, unfortunately, with State Theater in Traverse City, which is also a nonprofit run by the Traverse City Film Festival, started, of course, by Michael Moore. The state, unfortunately, is temporarily out of business due to a leaky roof. So, unfortunately, they had to discontinue all their showings this week. And anyway, the film festival has had their problems, as we all know. There used to be an actual Traverse City Film Festival, and Michael Moore was there for many years, and then he had to discontinue the film festival because there was a lawsuit against one of the vendors, and they settled it off court, and then there was a situation, and of course COVID hit, and that really hurt the film festival and any chance of it reopening. And it just goes on, and Michael Moore said screw it. And of course he also had to sell his other theater in Traverse City, which was Bijou by the Bay. And now the Bijou is, he was leasing it from the city of Traverse City, and now there's discussions about what's going to happen now. So anyway, so that's going on. So my take, folks, is do your best to support your local movie theater owners. I know right now there's not many good movies out there, but if you got a local movie theater, if you got a non-profit theater, support them. I understand, big corporations like AMC and Regal, they run the movie business these days, and the cool thing about the local theaters is that they tend to have lower prices, not just on tickets, but concessions as well. So do your best. Support local. Okay, so now we move on to Jesse Jackson. The Reverend Jesse Jackson died a few days ago. 84 years old. The family did not say what he died from, although there's speculation that he died from Parkinson's disease. He came to Grand Rapids in 2020 to support Bernie Sanders in his run for president. And, Bernie Sanders should have been the president of the United States, not Donald Trump. And, Joe Biden, he did an okay job. I like Joe. I know that the media was all over him about him being quote-unquote senile and old, and they love to attack his age, and blah, 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 wah, wah, wah. So the story is, Joe Biden was, now you look at Trump, and he's in worse shape than Biden. But anyway, Jesse Jackson took the stage here in Grand Rapids with Bernie Sanders. Poor guy had trouble holding the microphone. He could not, he was given a microphone, he held it too low, and then a guy, one of his helpers, handlers, whatever, came in and had to tell him, you got to hold it right here. And you can just tell he was definitely losing it, unfortunately. And, Parkinson's can really do a number on people. And, he was just, it was a no-brainer. The guy's health was not all there, but he could what he could do. So anyway, the rest of the story was that he had a remarkable legacy. He started his career, of course, with Martin Luther King Jr. And then of course he had his own ministry after King died, and and then what happens is he continued the fight for civil rights, and that was important. He was a reverend first and foremost, but civil rights were his forte. And the sad thing is, he did fuck up a few times. He called New York City Hymietown, and of course he called, and he also had a love child with another woman who wasn't his wife. So what happens is, this guy, excuse me. So anyway, the rest of the story was that Jesse, but most importantly of all, Jesse preached. You look at most of these preachers out there, they're all scam artists. They're all grifters. They all beg for money. They give you this, all these lies that you have to give them money or else you're going to hell. And you look at Charlie Kirk, and and the fact of the matter was, he was the anti Dr. King or Reverend Jackson. And some people are like, well, he was an assassination victim. We should all give him a statue in Washington, D.C. And I'm like, what the fuck are you thinking? And some of these people are like, well, look at Kid Rock now. Kid Rock had, he performed this really god-awful song at the fake Super Bowl show. That fake Super Bowl show. And what happened, now it's the #1 Christian song in America. And I'm like, this is a guy who, years ago, he had naked women in his music videos. He called himself a stone pimp, and of course he had that song where he was rapping about underage girls when you have sex with them. And my God, what the fuck, man? So now he's this stupid Jesus freak singer and ultra conservative asshole who lip syncs, and oh man, I can go on and on about Kid Rock. But the point is, folks, is that, so I want to tell you something. Kid Rock. So the story is that I think what really bothers me is that Jackson was not just a friend to African Americans, but white people too. And, that's why he created the Rainbow Coalition. And what happened was, my good friend Darren Gibson, he used to host the show Southpaws on WPRR 1680 here in Grand Rapids. And, I told you the story about Tyrone. He screwed him, him over. So anyway, the rest of the story was that on Facebook, Darren claimed that Tyrone saw Jackson hit on his wife. And I'm like, dude, what an asshole. What a big fucking asshole. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm sorry to say this, but it pisses me off when black people try to make themselves their own worst enemy. And that's who Tyrone is. And I'm sorry to say this, but there's too many people, too many black people in the media business who are like that. Byron Allen. Last year, he announced that he was going to fire all of his meteorologists from his TV stations because he was broke, even though he was lying for years that he was a billionaire. Oh, I own the Weather Channel. I'm a billionaire. No, you're not. Then how come you can't pay the networks? Hell, he even wanted to buy ABC from Disney. Yeah, he even made an outrageous... Yeah, he even sued McDonald's. Remember this, folks? He tried to sue McDonald's by saying that McDonald's doesn't care about black people. But, but then you also have, what is this company? Urban One. Urban One, which is black owned. It was started by Kathy Hughes and her ex-husband. And yeah, her ex-husband, now I forgot his name. So the story is, this asshole, after they purchased this radio station in Washington, WOL, Mr. Hughes went on and said that, the police need to go to all the recording studios and arrest everybody, and because they produce garbage. And yeah, basically he was going after his own people. And the good news was that Kathy left him. But here's the problem. Now, Kathy grew Radio One, it used to be called Radio One, into this giant media conglomerate. And what happened was, now they have their own cable network called TV One. And guess what TV One airs? The Cosby Show. They've owned they have the Cosby Show now. And my theory is, there's people out there who think that Bill Cosby is not guilty. He was only in jail for 3 years, even though there's enough evidence that he had drugged and raped dozens of women. You look at England, and after it was discovered that Jimmy Savile had molested hundreds of young children, get this, the BBC did the right thing and pulled everything he ever did off the air. They did the right thing. Hell, in England, radio stations don't play the music of Gary Glitter anymore because he was a molester. He was a predator. But Bill Cosby, we still air the Cosby Show because, it's a good, clean show for the whole family. But, I try to tell myself, yeah, there's a lot of black-owned media companies that suck. But guess what? Most white media sucks too. Look at CBS and what they've done since the Ellisons bought it. Look at what happened a few nights ago with Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert was censored because he did this interview with a Democrat congressman from Texas, and they're like, the FCC's going to go after us now. You look at all the radio station owners, the iHeart Medias and the Cumuluses and the, Town Squares. They all suck. And of course, I grew up in this small town in northern Michigan, Elk Rapids. And Elk Rapids actually is mostly white. It's like 95% white. And the last couple of years, they had 2 black restaurant owners, 2 black-owned restaurants. One was called, I think it was called Kolu's, and it was a soul food restaurant. It got rave reviews, and I heard that this Kolu lady was a really nice woman. But guess what happened? They went out of business because, I guess the health department came in and said, "Yep, you're operating with bad equipment." Yeah, I heard it was like they were using like home equipment. So Kolu retired and closed. But here's what else happened. So there was a restaurant a few years ago in Elk Rapids that started out really strong. It was called The Foundry. It was in an old gas station building. And what happened was the Foundry, so the story was it was a burger bar pretty much. And I went there 2 years ago. And I wanted to see what the fuss was about. So it had promise in the beginning. And then what happened was I took a few bites out of my burger. It was totally raw in the center. But I was too hungry to quit. I was angry. And it took 30 minutes for them to cook the goddamn thing. And there weren't many people there. And guess what happened? The place ended up closing because the reviews weren't all that great. And even worse, shortly thereafter, the other Foundry restaurant up in East Jordan also closed. And now I was reading online that Andre Bushell, who used to own the Foundry, now he owes his employees a lot of money. Yeah, he was behind on their pay. Yeah, he gypped them of a lot of money, and now it looks like he's going to get sued. Not only that, he also used to own the Dickey's barbecue pit in Traverse City, and that ended up closing. And I'm like, well, yes, he's a black dude in a mostly white town, but you look at all the failures in Elk Rapids history. And unfortunately, I worked at a white-owned restaurant in town, and they made me work with a child molester. And there was another restaurant in Elk Rapids that was owned by an asshole who was a notorious wife beater, and his son also worked there. He was a school bully to me. And this was a restaurant that was around for 70 years, and that closed because the story was he was caught beating up his wife, and it's kind of a long story, but that restaurant, by the way, is still in business today as Pearls. That's why we got Elk Rapids ended up with Pearls, and they're doing pretty good. But you know what, folks? I can talk about, sometimes I do think black is bad, white is good. Sometimes there's people who get angry when they go to the grocery store and there's a black, big, ugly, fat, 600-pound black woman who buys a bunch of candy and puts it on the EBT card. But guess what? You also have to realize how much money we, the taxpayers, are paying billionaires. Why are we doing this, folks? This is wrong. Billionaires don't deserve our money. We need, this is what Reverend Jackson fought for. Income equality. Plain and simple. And all I have to say about that is, say whatever you want about about Jackson. The truth of the matter is the fact that when you vote Republican, it's like, okay, years ago, too many times I've had people tell me, well, when you vote for the Democrats, all your money's going to go to the thugs in Detroit. And of course, they don't use the word thugs, they use the N-word. And now you look at Republicans and look at where all of our money is going into. The White House ballroom. And, I don't know, folks. It breaks my, folks, we need more people out there who can speak, who will fight for what's right in this world. And, I'm doing my best to bring my message to the internet. And Jesse did it, did in front of hundreds, maybe thousands of people at a time. And that's what Jesse just wanted to do. Bring the truth and make it a reality. And, I know, sometimes I see black people fuck up, and I should have told you that earlier, that guy who was riding his bike across the street and I almost hit him. He was a black dude. And I don't know why black people do act like this. They crosswalk, but you know what? What's interesting to note is my company just hired a black guy recently, and he's doing a good job, from what I understand. There's not many black folks who work at my company, but, it's beginning. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Jesse will be missed. He was a fighter for all of us, and I hope that, I hope he encourages more people to keep up the fight, the good fight. Good day. Good luck. I'll talk to you later, everyone. Rest in peace, Jesse Jackson.